Okay, so let's make a start. So we got Ash, Kai, Kayla, Luke, Noah, and Terrell. I think that's my lot. Right, okay. Well done, everybody, for coming. So a bit of today is really about trying to sort of wrestle back the time for this employability units. I'm desperate to do the gym instructor, but a lot of this course is built around the employability work, and without that work, the gym instructor can't really happen. To sort of stop me banging on about it, I'd quite like to get a lot of that work done. So I'm going to kind of talk you through it today. I think a lot of it's just sort of little tasks that get you in the habit of practicing the skills of kind of applying for jobs, really. So today is a bit of that. So I'm going to set a couple of tasks. I'm going to talk you through one quite closely, and then I'm going to give you a couple of tasks to get on with for a slightly more kind of extended time. So let's just crack on. So basically on Friday, I really tried to sort of pin you down and get you all to finish off that unit 26. And hopefully, I know there are a couple of people who started a little bit late, but they've been in contact and they seem sort of mostly on track. So hopefully everyone's pretty comfortable with unit 26, and that's either on its way to me in the post, or those people that started late are just finishing it off, and I'm going to get it in the next few days. So I'm going to kind of park that, but if you haven't finished it, that's really a focus of your work. And we're now going to go back to unit 27, which we did get quite a long way through. So I'm going to, in my mind, we've only got the last task to do, which is quite long. So I think it's going to come over, it's going to almost sort of work over today's session and a little bit of tomorrow's. So let's just crack on. I'll sort of just go over what we've done for this unit, and then we'll talk through today's task. Let's go. So just to sort of recap the structure of the course is there's 5 units. We did unit 26 to begin with, which was devising your CV and cover letter. So that's what I was chasing up on Friday, and most people are well underway with that, and most people seem quite happy with the work. We're doing the second one there, which is applying for jobs. And hopefully it's going to blend very nicely with the next unit, and the next one should really be fairly quick, I hope. So this is unit 27, and we got quite a long way down the path with this particular unit. So I'll go through those tasks. So the assignment sheet I asked you all to have with you should look a bit like that. The tasks themselves are relatively straightforward. A lot of it's worksheet based. So I'm going to just quickly review the worksheets you should have done, and then we're going to review the worksheet you will do today, and also the additional work. So by the end of the session, you should all have worksheet 4 completed for me, as well as having made progress towards the final task. So the worksheet 1 looked like this. So what you were doing, you were describing 4 different sources of information. So this is where I asked you to write down, we looked very briefly at things like the job center. We looked at Indeed.com. We looked at sort of employment agencies, and kind of looked at the value that they'd give to us in our job hunt. As you look at the bottom, there's a little table which just outlines 4 different types of employment. So that was things like being a full-time employee, being a contractor or 0 hours worker. And again, we worked through that. If you haven't done that, there is the session we did is up on YouTube, so you can sort of review that. So hopefully you've completed worksheet 1. Worksheet 2 was this. So in preparation for this one, I asked you all to complete a skills health check. So one of the things that you do for your skills health check is you follow a load of questions on the website that you were linked to. And at the end of it, you get a little a PDF of it summarizes your skills and your abilities. So what you were looking to do with that was include it with your assignment, as well as including a summary using the worksheet that's here. So worksheet 2 from unit 27. And I've gone through that a few times, so hopefully everyone's pretty well ahead with it. The last time I gave time in class, no one came up with any great concern, so I hope that's all right. The last bit we did was this, and so this was looking at the features of different jobs. So again, we had quite a lot of time in class, so if you haven't done this yet, it's really on you now to get this up to speed in your own time. So this is the section where you're describing different features of different jobs. So essentially you take 3 jobs that you found in your searches. You'd find a feature, which is something like, let's say, the salary. The second feature would be, say, the working hours and working conditions. And feature number 3 could be, for example, the qualifications and skills that are required for the role. So essentially you're just kind of picking out information from job adverts. So if people are really stuck on any of those worksheets, number 1, 2, or 3, you need to really let me know today, and then what I can do in the session after, so at 4 o'clock, I can stay online and I can just talk people through it individually. So I don't want you kind of going away not understanding, but we do need to finish this sort of fairly quickly. So onwards and upwards. The last section of this unit is this worksheet number 4. So if I can get you to just get that worksheet out for me now, I'll just give you a little pause so you can get that worksheet out in front of you, and then I'm just going to go through a little taskette for you to do in a second. So if I just give you a pause to get that worksheet out. Okay, so hopefully now you've got your worksheet. You can look at task 4. So it's on page 3 of that worksheet. So it's kind of at the bottom. So it's this one here. So task 4 asks you to do this. So it's 3. There's a couple of bits to it actually, and I just wanted to get that clear because what we've got here is a worksheet, but there's also a little bit of work that's needs to be done alongside it. So I just really want to make that very clear today and give you an opportunity to complete the worksheet and then make a start on that final task, because it needs a little bit of toing and froing between us. So you need to send me a little bit of work, I need to send it back immediately. So that's the purpose. Okay, so task 4. I'll just read it through. So you will need to compare 3 methods of applying for a job. Use the table in the worksheet 4 to show the key features of each one you mention. And I'll talk you through what I need to see in that table, because it's a little bit, the wording of it isn't ideal. So I've got some ideas that you can use to fill in yours. Part B is that you choose 2 of your job adverts from task 3. So where you were looking at very specific job adverts earlier, you choose, or in previous sessions, you choose 2 of them and you prepare your application. So if it requires a CV and a cover letter, you get all your details ready in a draft form and you send it to me. If it requires an application form, exactly the same. Just print off that application form, do it in a draft, and then send it to me. So what I then do is I give you some feedback on those applications that you've given. you act on that feedback, you adjust what you've created, and then you create a final application. So what you then do, you create some sort of evidence that you've submitted that application. So ideally, it would be a job that you could apply for kind of immediately, really. That would be the ideal. Or you create some sort of record of an online application. So a little bit of this is about the practice of the process. So even if you know, the employer, even if you can't immediately take up the job, it's worth doing the application. So let's sort of get that nice and clear. Okay, so let's crack on. So essentially this last task has 4 components to it. So number 1, you compare 3 methods of applying for jobs, and I'll talk you through that in a second. The second bit is you present your information required for a job application in draft form. So this is you creating draft applications, sending them to me, and then I give you some feedback. You make your changes, and then you apply for your job. Fairly simple. So let's do that now. Okay, so the 3 methods that we're going to apply for, or we're going to assess, if you like, are these. So one is just completing an application form. Now, I sort of hate application forms when I'm job hunting myself, only because I sort of find that they ask for the same stuff again and again. It's a really irritating thing. That, so in my teaching roles, I remember when I was looking for jobs in teaching, and they all ask for exactly the same information: where you went to school, what your qualifications are, what your work experience was. But every time you had to type it all out again. There was no sort of standard, you know, everyone just applies this, and it's really irritating. And so I'll kind of get you to kind of assess why a company might use an application form, and also the sort of the benefits and the drawbacks of it from an applicant's perspective. Next up, we'll just look at a CV and cover letter. So we'll sort of consider what the benefits and the drawbacks might be from an applicant's perspective, or even the employer's perspective. And then lastly, there's just applying in person. So this is kind of turning up and saying, have you got any jobs? So there's sort of benefits and drawbacks to each. There's things that one method of application might give that others don't. So what we're going to do is work our way through and address each one individually. So let me just, okay, so everyone should have their task 4 worksheet. So this is this one, this one here. So it's on page 3. It's a worksheet, looks like that. So on the top left, it says worksheet 4. There. So worksheet 4, methods of application. Now, I'm going to go onto that sheet now, and we're going to kind of complete it as a group. So let's do that now. So, right, boom. So here's a lot of information. I want to start just sort of refining it a little bit. So what we're going to look at initially is just the top line. Okay, so let's just concentrate on this bit here. Okay, so we'll take the classic CV and cover letter. Now, what can people think are the benefits of using a CV and cover letter? So can you just pop in the chat box what you think are the benefits of a CV and a cover letter? So how will it benefit an applicant? What will it give to the employer? Okay, that's good. So allows the information of yourself in one place. This is good. Gives insight to employer of employment and education history. Perfect. That's really good ideas. And so yes, as I was saying, so this is the benefit of that CV, in that, and also doing it in a very standardized form. It allows the employer to see it very quickly, and it allows you to get that information across very quickly. In terms of the sort of, there's two boxes that we need to consider here, and I'll show you why I'm kind of taking time to talk you through it, because it's a little bit sort of was worded, I think, that we need a little bit of care the way that we address it. So what it asks is this one here. It says similarity to other methods, and then at the top it's got differences from other methods. Now, I think that the terminology is sort of slightly awkward here. What I would say is we should identify things that are similar with a CV to other methods of application, but we might also include benefits of that method of application. So what I've done here, and I just really want us to concentrate on just that top line for the minute. Like people said in the chat box, number one, its similarity to other methods is it allows the employer to see your skills and qualities quickly. So in a short while, I'm going to get you to write your sort of interpretation of that. It allows you to show your work, skills and experiences quickly, which is fine. It also gives you an opportunity to explain your suitability. Can you think of any other benefits of that sort of, particularly maybe the cover letter? What are the benefits of the cover letter? How might the cover letter benefit you? What else can we add in there? Okay, a couple of ideas. Yeah, I think a couple of people have mentioned about this idea that you can tailor your application much better. So one of the things that the CV allows you to do is it sort of shows, well, it does a couple of things actually. It sort of shows your presentation skills, doesn't it? So if you're applying for, let's say, an office role, and you've got a CV that's just a mess, people kind of know that you're likely to be a mess in the office. So it's kind of useful from an employer's perspective to see people's skills in being able to organize and present that information. It also means that you can adapt your style slightly to suit that industry. So for example, if you were applying for a job in a design, there may be some little touches you can add to your CV. If you're applying for one in theatre, for example, you might sort of change the style to sort of engage and excite. So it allows you the opportunity. I'm just going to pop this in the text box. So in terms of the differences, it sort of allows you allows you to tailor your application much more than other methods, such as the application form. So what I'm going to get you to do is I just want you to complete that top line for me. So I'll sort of just pop in here that what I want you to do is on this site, I'm going to just sort of show in here in this section. I really want the, what's similar to other methods of application, but also what are the benefits of this form of application. And then in this side, what is different and unique about that method of application. You might also think of what maybe the drawbacks are of that method of application. So I'm going to sort of shut up for a bit and let you complete that. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to do that top line, but I'm going to remain on the chat box to guide anyone through. So what I want you to do is, I don't want you to copy those headings that I've given. I want these are sort of things to stimulate your writing. So I want you to kind of expand on those ideas and write fluently yourself. So, what is similar and what is different to the other methods of application, and importantly, what are the benefits and what are the drawbacks of those methods of application. Any problems? Pop it in the group chat. But I'll let you get on with that for 15 minutes and catch up with you in a second. Okay, so no responses in the chat box. So I assume we're all kind of good to carry on. So let's just attack this second bit first, and that will take us up to a little break, I think. So so what we're going to do now is just going to look at this. So we're sort of comparing the different methods. So now we're looking at application forms, and I guess the two things we're kind of comparing to is mostly the CV. But a little bit the third one, which is that sort of applying in person. So I guess when we sort of think what is similar between an application form and a CV is that both of them have very clear sections for skills, education, experience. So there's very sort of clear sort of organization. The application form can sometimes include an opportunity to free write, but often that might be a little bit more directed. For example, so in your cover letter, you've usually you kind of choose what you want to write about, but in an application form they might say, tell us about a time when you've demonstrated excellent customer service. They might say, tell us your favorite, I don't know, let's say they might say, tell us a time when you have experienced working as a team and what made it successful. So they may give slightly more prompting answers or prompting questions to tease out information from a potential applicant. So the common thing they have is this, and they also have the opportunity to free write, usually if it's relevant for the role. What's different is employers emphasize exactly what information is needed. So how could an employer use an application form to really kind of get to the sort of the key facts straight away? Can someone give me an example in the chat box? Anyone? Okay, yeah, someone's giving me a good one or two private. Yeah, so for example, let's imagine, I'll put this in text actually, that would be quite useful for you. Let's put that in in this color. So for example, so let's say, I don't know, so I've just put in there that, for example, any sort of driving job, not the neatest work of my life, you get the idea anyway. So any sort of driving jobs is going to ask about driving qualifications very early, aren't they? Certain roles require an absolutely clear driving license. Certain roles ask you to live near a certain site. So if you look at things like working for the London Underground, they often ask that you live within, I think, a sort of 30 or 40-minute journey from the place that you work. So some employers, they'll sort of put that in very early into their application forms. I put the differences. I put one of the things actually is with an application form. It's rather time consuming. That's kind of what I was saying earlier about our teaching jobs, is that sometimes there's so much repetition that you sort of feel kind of a little bit frustrated that you're writing the same information that you have in your CV. And that, I suppose, stops companies getting hundreds and hundreds of these sort of just speculative, meaningless applications. It means that people have to think a little bit harder about their applications. Differences, sometimes it can be handwritten, so a company might want to see your handwriting. They might make sort of judgments based on your ability to write, which would be awful for me because my handwriting is appalling. But sometimes that may be something that they'll be interested in, because conceivably you could get someone else to write your CV and your cover letter, but you can't really get someone else to handwrite your application form. So there may be sort of benefits to them using that approach. Okay, so there's some similarities, there's some differences. I want you to have a little think about that, and I want you to spend 10 minutes on that task. So just have a couple of minutes to think about what you're going to write in each box, and then I want you to start your writing into your Unit 27 Worksheet 4. Any problems, just pop them in the chat box. So it's 5 minutes to, I'm going to regroup at 5 minutes past, okay? So that's your job. So if you can start now, the clock is ticking, and we'll regroup in 10 minutes time. Let's just talk through this. So now we're going to just look at this one on the bottom. So applying in person. So I guess when you sort of think, oh, what is similar to turning up to an employer and introducing yourself, it still does kind of give you, in the same way as a CV and cover letter, and the same way as an application form, it allows you to express your interest in a role. So I'd like you to write something along those lines. Again, don't copy me exactly. I don't want 15 different assignments with exactly the same thing written. But ultimately that's what you're doing. You're turning up. You're showing your enthusiasm. I've put there the similarity to other methods is about the need to prepare for it. So if you're going to turn up to an employer or something like a job fair, for example, it needs to be prepared for. That opportunity to meet someone, the person that could potentially be offering you a job. You may get posed some questions. You may get asked some things that kind of put you on the spot. So it's useful to sort of have in your mind some ideas about how you might respond to particular questions that relate to that job role. So I've put there that it needs to be done with preparation. I'm going to just put in the bottom, just say give examples. Why do you need to prepare for it? A bit of it might also just be that you're showing how you present yourself, how you turn up for these sort of situations. In terms of the section where it asks what's different, so this sort of area here, what's different is you know, it allows that employer to see you, which the other two don't really. It's a bit more focused on personality, so that sort of thing might suit maybe a, you know, maybe like a sales role, for example. You know, it could be quite possible for a, you know, an organization that is involved in lots of sales to, you know, have things like job fairs where they might try and meet potential candidates, or if you think there's an environment where your personality would be particularly well suited, that might be an opportunity to meet people. So I've put two examples here. You can expand on those. You can expand on your own ideas. But what I'd like you to do, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to just add in a little bit of detail there. So the so number one, it allows the employer to kind of meet you to make an assessment of your personality, and sort of less concentration on the sort of qualifications. But again, you can add any other information you might wish to include. So I'm going to give you just 10 minutes to finish that one up. So it's 20 past now, so I'll meet you at 1:30. I'll put a couple of things in chat box to give you some ideas, but do let me know how you get on. If you need any help, do shout. Nope. Okay, so I assume everyone's sort of finished there. So no one's kind of no one's talked to me in chat box. So I assume I'm happy to to crack on. So that was the sort of the kind of build up. The next bit is really the sort of bit of work that's going to cross over between today and tomorrow. So this will require a little bit of work in your own time, and I want to sort of set you up on it now, and I'm just going to give you a little task to get on with, to sort of prep us for it. So where it's going, let me just sort of pop over the slide. If you need to revisit any of this later, if you didn't get a chance to finish and you need this slide, I suggest you take a sort of a screenshot of it now, or a photo if it's on your laptop or whatever. So you've kind of got that to refer to. So I'll just give you a second to do that. And then whilst people do that, if they're doing it at all, we'll sort of press on to the next bit. So the next bit is really what you're going to be doing is you're going to be you're selecting two jobs to apply for, but the first stage is that you're going to create a draft application. It's a slightly annoying way of doing it, really, but it's an opportunity for you to send me your application, and then me to sort of review it. So what I'm going to get you to do is this. So let's look over the page. So what you have to do is this. So you're creating two draft applications for two different jobs. So in the previous task, I got you to find jobs, ones that were near you, and you looked at the details of them. So that ranged from people applying for sort of gym instructor jobs, people applying for the army, people applying for Argos, people applying for whatever. I don't mind. Now, what you've got to do is find out how to apply for two of those jobs. Now, what's probably the simplest way of doing this is if you find one that requires a CV and a cover letter, and one that applies that needs just an application form. So the easiest way is if there's an application form that we can print off and physically send me, or if there's a CV and a cover letter where you can again just send it to me via email, and that will allow me to review it, and then you can correct it, and then you can upload your application. So what I want you to do, if you could, I want you to tell me what 2 jobs you're going to apply for. So what I'm going to ask you to do is this. I'm going to type it into the chat box so you all kind of know what's required. So you're actually going to find me your job, and I want you to tell me in the chat box what that job is and where I can find it. If you can actually cut and paste the link in, that's even better. But what I'm going to do is ask you to do that initially. How do you apply for those 2 jobs? What I then want you to do is start your draft application for one of those jobs. So I'm going to type in the chat box now what I need you to do. 1. Okay, so I've just written into chat box what your task is. So firstly, what you're going to do is you're going to find those 2 jobs. That should be quick because you did that in a previous task. So you found 2 jobs that you're now going to create a draft application for them. So first of all, you're going to tell me the job, and you're going to tell me how you apply for it. So some of the jobs you need to apply on a company site. Some of them you just need to put a CV and an application, sorry, a CV and a cover letter together. Some of them you have an application form. I want you to take one of those jobs and I want you to begin your draft application. So if it's a CV and cover letter, a lot of it is going to be just tweaking your CV and tweaking your cover letter. So that's all I want you to do now. Okay, so it's 22. I'm going to give you just a 10-minute task, but I should expect everyone in that 10 minutes to have told me what that job is. Okay, so so I can see my list of names here. I should be expecting a number of jobs coming back at me. So your job now is to just sort of quickly review those jobs that you found, find 2 that you're going to create an application for, but you're telling me what that job is, where I can find it, and how you apply for it. Okay, so that's your task. It is 22 now. Can you do that within before 10:02, please? That's your task.